Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the DCL podcast, episode 6. Hope you folks had a great Easter. Today, I am joined by Mr. Frank Cooper, the father of Hayden Cooper, the DCL's general manager and a former player in the Dairyland Collegiate League. Mr. Cooper, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, first off, just as I mentioned, as the father of a former DCL player, what has the league meant to you and your family over the past few years?
It's an interesting story. Some folks may have watched Hayden's podcast, but it was, we were at a crossroads he was at a crossroads as a player, and I was as his dad, and of course his mom's heavily involved in it too. But we were just kind of searching, and I'm not going to lie, I was just on the internet one day playing around and looking at summer leagues, and for whatever reason, God willing, I hit the DCL button, and kind of the rest is history. Chase was very involved with the DCL back then, and Hayden didn't even know I was doing it. So it was kind of cool. I did all the paperwork for him, and Chase responded. And so I guess the point there is that little did I know the impact that would have on our family. Hayden, went to Wisconsin that summer. We got to come up there, and we had never been to Wisconsin. We got to go watch him play twice, and of course, he had a really good summer, and that just really kind of catapulted him into the rest of his collegiate playing career. And it was just fun to watch how the DCL just kind of gave him that rebirth of what he grew up playing with, and playing for, and the love of the game. He respects the game dearly, but being able to play it to the capability he wanted to, the DCL gave him that opportunity.
Um, so could you go a little bit more in depth about some of the experiences that he's had, whether it be as a player or anything that you've heard about in his time recently as a coach and now in his new role as the GM?
Yeah, it was kind of fun. We went and watched him play. I guess that was like 4 years ago. You see him out there competing. And this past summer, we got to go watch him on the other side. Now he's got to do strategy. Now he's got to do the, what work with the pitch. Now he had a great assistant coach, but you got to work with the pitchers. You got to get guys in. Just watching the different dynamics, because the DCL has such great players, and the guys who have coached over the years are just all really good guys as well. So you get to see, I've been fortunate to see Hayden interact as a player with the guys he has met and kept in touch with over the years. Now to see him do it as a coach, just those experiences. And he was real excited about guys that have said, "Hey, I'm coming back," because they like the way he coached. He's got guys from where he is now, from Delta State, that are coming up to play. So I just think his, watching the attitude and the excitement about the DCL, but it really goes back to the environment that's created up there in Wisconsin. We all live in Missouri. Like I said earlier, that was our first exposure. But you got the communities up there that are so cool. They're so tight knit. You got host families that really, believe in the league and love hosting a college player for the summer. So once you start seeing all that and all that come together, and the camaraderie between the players and the coaches, they're all competitive, but they're all having a good time. They're enjoying the college experience. And what better way to do it than spend the summer up in Wisconsin playing baseball against other college players?
Could you touch a little bit more on, just for, any parents of kids who might want to play next year, or even kids watching who want to play next year, just a little bit more on the people in the communities, the managers, and as well as, the guys up top?
Yeah, I think so. If a parent came up to me today, I'd say it's a great opportunity, because one, the intent of the league, especially working with Frank, the commissioner, is really to develop players, give them the opportunity to improve their skills, whether it's you're an infielder or an outfielder, where you want to work on your hitting, or you're a pitcher that maybe didn't get to pitch that much. It's just a great environment to play in that setting. But what's enjoyable about it is like, Tracy runs, getting, and Frank's heavily involved as well, but getting the host families, because, if you have a great host family, because a lot of these guys, some of them are local, don't get me wrong, but some guys are coming in from a distance or so. And, having a good host family, it just makes the environment so much, so incredible. And Hayden's been very lucky. It was just happenstance that he stayed with Frank and Tracy. Frank's the commissioner now. When he went up there to play, he stayed with Frank and Tracy. Now he's going back, and they're kind of like his other parents, honestly, but this will be his third summer staying with them. But I would tell any parent, that community supports baseball is very much loved in the state of Wisconsin, and that community and the fans and the families. I mean, you got people coming to the games that are just the local neighbors. They're just walking down the street, catching a ball game. It's just a really good atmosphere. And, and the league is, working with Frank, we're trying to even improve that. We're building on what Chase and them started, but, we're trying to get more exposure for their players, because we want, when that player goes back to college that fall and gets ready for fall ball, when his coach asked him, how was your summer? I mean, we want him to say it was great. It was outstanding. I'd recommend the DCL to anybody. So that's the kind of, we've got good momentum, and I think that's what we're trying to build on.
So you touched on a little bit when, Hayden, when you first signed Hayden up for the DCL, he was at a crossroads in his career. How much did it mean to see his summer in Wisconsin rejuvenate him as in the sport of baseball?
Oh, it was awesome. He had been battling some injuries and had some coaches changes at that school he was at that time. And, when you walk in, I mean, Hayden didn't know anybody. He went up to Wisconsin by himself, didn't know a soul, and he was just welcomed immediately. And I think that's what it creates for every player that comes there. It's just that welcoming attitude. And everybody up there wants the kid, whether it's my son or their son or a friend, everybody wants them to succeed and get better. And I think, watching Hayden play, it was, as a dad, as a parent, it was really uplifting. You could just see it in his face. You could see it in his body language that he rediscovered what baseball was all about. Because, as you know, baseball is not an easy sport. You got to work at it. You got to build at it. You got to have confidence. You got to overcome adversity. So the DCL just allows you to experience those highs and lows in an environment where you got other teammates trying to do the same thing, because everybody wants to get better before they get back to school. And, it's an 8-week league that just really can catapult you into success. And that's what it did for Hayden. He went down to Delta State and finished his playing career there, and he had a great collegiate career. Very proud of him.
So you've mentioned what the DCL has done for Hayden as a player. Now he's a GA down at Delta State, and he's the manager or a manager in the DCL. Could you also talk about the way that it's developed him as a instructor?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because oftentimes we focus on the players, but this is also a great opportunity for young and upcoming coaches. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had some experienced coaches as well, and it helps them because they're teaching some of the young guys. But when Hayden got the job last year, he had never coached. Chase took a chance and said, "Yeah, man, we want you back. We'd love to have you back." And again, things, but you could see how he changed from understanding about the game and it's the whole aspect of the game, preparing for the game, having a strategy, running the bases, double steals, bunting, hitting, it's just fun to watch a young coach learn through that process. And the DCL gives guys great opportunities to do that. Like one of Hayden's players this year from Delta State, Drake Fontenot, is going to come up, and Drake's going to be his pitching coach. So that'll be Drake's first experience. So you can see not only does a DCL help players, but it also gives young and upcoming coaches an opportunity to learn a skill, help them develop, because it really helped Hayden when he went back to be a GA, because he wasn't learning the game as a GA. He had already coached, and now the GA part is just helping him understand the overall process of baseball game management, what it takes to be a college coach. He's got a great mentor in Rodney Batts. Coach Batts has done a good job teaching Hayden. So now he's pulled all that together. And I think being the GM is just going to be so much fun to watch, because he's going to be over the whole league and he's going to be coaching as well. So I would highly encourage anybody out there that if you want to be a coach, expand your career and learn a little bit more, a DCL coaching job is just as good as a DCL playing, a position player.
So we've touched on player development, coach development, helping refine the love of the game of baseball. Is there anything else that you wish to mention regarding the Dairyland Collegiate League, or even just about Hayden?
Well, I think from what I would like for people to understand is that, I didn't pick this journey. My family's fully invested in the DCL. Frank and Tracy gave us a great opportunity to be part of it. Mary Jane and I, we're on the board, if you will. Hayden's a GM and a coach. My daughter, Madison, is doing a lot of the social media content. So we're in Missouri, but we're fully invested in making the DCL even better than it is today, build on what we have. And it's just a joy to work with the people up in Wisconsin. It's been fun to kind of expand our baseball family, if you will. We grew up, well, we watched Hayden grow up playing baseball his whole life, and you have baseball families throughout his age, if you will. And now we're part of a different baseball family at this point in his career and being his parents. So I think it's I just want to share people with, hey, we're fully vested. We want the best experience for your sons out there on the field. We want them to grow as men. The baseball is a great sport to learn from. It teaches you so many different lessons. So having Hayden be a part of that, which again offered us the opportunity to participate in such an environment, has just been so rewarding. We're looking forward to coming up to Wisconsin this summer, to just watch different games, and have a good time.
And so the last question I have for you, and you did just mention it there, obviously the DCL opened up doors for Hayden, but also, as you just mentioned, it opened up doors for your daughter. So can you talk a little bit, is managing social media something that she wanted to do, or something that she had an interest in, or is this kind of just something that fell into her lap?
Well, it's so my daughter has her own company now, and she has maybe 3 or 4 accounts, and she does that for different groups. And of course, she's older than Hayden, and she's traveled, a lot. She sacrificed a lot in her life as we were going all over the place, with Hayden. But no, the story is like, Frank and I were talking as we looked to develop the league, and one of the things that we wanted to do, because adults nowadays are on social media on multiple platforms, and we wanted to be consistent on all the platforms, because one of our goals is exposure for the players, whether it's on X or Instagram or Facebook. We want a player to be able to, like, retweet out a highlight, or so his family that may be 100 or so miles away can see stuff on Facebook. But we were searching, and and I kept coming up with these ideas because that's kind of what I do. And Frank was talking like, yeah, man, we've got to kind of get this organized. I said, well, I just happen to know somebody that could help us out. And so I stayed out of it, and I let Frank, and my daughter's name's Madison, I let Frank and Madison kind of work out the deals. And so Madison's actually having a great time with it because it's a different setting. She's met more people doing this. And again, it kind of ties back into the whole family. The whole Cooper family's involved in the DCL. And I think Madison's really enjoyed it. And what she's doing is she's helping us establish that content and that consistent recognition, not only for the players, but for our sponsors. She's going to work on some community stuff. So she's trying to, make sure everybody understands and help communicate who the DCL is. And right now, I mean, I know she's my daughter, but I think she's doing a fabulous job.
I would absolutely agree with that. She's doing a great job of promoting these weekly podcasts. I'll go ahead and have to run it back and plug the podcast again in the podcast. So that's going to do it for us here, Mr. Cooper. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate the conversation and the story that you're providing us all with. And thank you very much. And we'll see everybody again on the next episode of the DCL Pod. Have a great night, folks.
Thank you.